What's up, guys? Today we will be comparing the iPhone 11 to the iPhone 14 Pro here. So this was a pretty interesting request for me because the iPhone 11 is aging so well, guys. And if you have an iPhone 11, let's talk about the pros and the cons of going ahead and upgrading. So one of the first things is that the 14 Pro is going to be expensive, guys. It is $1,000 phone. And if you don't have either of these phones and you want an iPhone 11, the iPhone 11 is actually going for well under 400 bucks now, so it's a very good deal for an older flagship phone. So I want to start off with the hardware. I still really like the look of the iPhone 11, and I actually prefer the curved edges on the iPhone 11. It feels really good in the hand. The 14 Pro, it still feels good, but it doesn't feel anywhere near. Like, it kind of cuts into the hand because it's kind of more boxy, as you guys can see there. And yeah, you'll notice it right off the rip. The iPhone 11 is just way more comfortable to hold here. So both of these phones have premium designs. They both are glass and metal designs. I do like the matte finish on the 14 Pro. It looks really nice. You can see it doesn't really pick up fingerprints. And yeah, so materials on these two phones, they are still very high quality. Both phones are IP68 dust and water resistant. You'll notice the iPhone 11 is also noticeably lighter when you pick it up. And then as you can see thickness, you can see the camera intrusion on the iPhone 14 Pro is just pretty massive. The cameras are just massive on this phone compared to the 11 here. And you will notice that dual camera setup versus the triple camera setup as well, which we will get into. But as far as hardware, like I said, I really like the iPhone 11 still. It still looks really good and looks really modern. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about the display. So you can see right off the rip, the iPhone 14 Pro has the new display and it's got the new punch hole or, cutout on it. And you still have the traditional notch on the iPhone 11 here. So definitely the big difference here is that, the punch hole does not intrude on content as much as the notch. Is not as big or distracting. So I really like the new design on the display. I think it looks really good, so that could be something that you might really like. Everything just looks more immersive when you're watching videos and stuff like that, having those extra pixels and stuff like that. And also it just looks a little bit more modern as well. But that's not only the thing with the displays. So the iPhone 14 Pro also has a very bright display. It gets bright up to 2000 nits, which is pretty crazy. The iPhone 11 is only max brightness at 625 nits. So when you're outdoors in direct sunlight, you will notice that difference there for sure. So I also want to talk about the screen quality. So the iPhone 11 still has a very good screen quality to me, but when you are watching content, you will sort of notice the difference. So the iPhone 14 Pro does have an LTPO Super Retina XDR OLED display. It's 120 Hz, which you will notice in applications like Instagram when you're scrolling the web and stuff like that. You will notice just swiping and stuff like that, that the 14 Pro is going to feel a little bit smoother because it's running at 120 Hz. And it is an OLED display, so colors and stuff are going to be better as well. And it is a 6.1 inch display, and it has a resolution of 1179 by 2556, 460 for the PPI. Now the iPhone does have a Retina IPS display, so not quite as good as OLED in my opinion, but like I said, the 11 still is a pretty good looking display, and it is a 720p plus display, so you do have a higher resolution on the 14 Pro with 326 for the PPI on the 11. So as far as the display upgrade, I think it's a pretty good upgrade, but if you are like not really display heavy, you probably won't care because the iPhone 11 is still really sharp. Icons and everything look really sharp. But like I said, I do enjoy the cutout on the 14 Pro, and I do like having an OLED display. You're able to take advantage of things like the always on display, as you guys can see on the 14. When you turn it off, it still stays on. You're able to do that with the OLED display, so that might interest you as well too. So that's definitely something to think about. Alright, so here is the really interesting part. So let's go ahead and talk about the speed on both of these phones and the software experience. So you virtually get the same software experience. Both of these phones are running iOS 16. On the 14 Pro, you have the Apple A16 chip on here. No SD card support, of course. And then you have 128 gigs of internal storage and 6 gigs of RAM. I want to pull up the Geekbench scores for you guys, so you guys can see what those look like. So you can see a pretty big difference, as you can see, especially with that multi-core score. And then here are your Antutu benchmark scores. As you can see, we're in the 625,000 range, and then we're in 942,000 for the Antutu benchmark as well too. So how does, just in general, these phones run, right? Like, do they run? Is the 11 lagging all over the place and stuff like that? The answer is no. The 11 is actually still very fast. When you're launching applications and stuff like that, yeah, the 14 Pro, you can see, just got in there extremely quick. As you can see that difference there with app loading. Now, I don't think a normal person would really care about that. If you're really into smartphones and speed and stuff, then that would be like maybe that would be a considerable amount of time for you. But in the real world, it's not really, especially when you launch, the web browser and stuff like that. It's really not that big of a difference here. So for speed, for the casual user, as you guys can see, again, the 120 hertz just makes it feel like it's a little bit smoother. But the 11 is still very much fast and capable. You guys can see I'm swiping. It's not lagging or anything like that. It's very much able to keep up with the 14 Pro here. So like I said, you are getting a very nice speed update. But for the casual or average person, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Let's go ahead and launch PUBG, a heavier game, and see, can we notice a big difference here? All right, 14 Pro jumps out ahead. Oh, the iPhone 11 actually beat it. What? All right, so the iPhone 11 actually won that. That was funny. All right, so when it comes to graphic performance, you will also be surprised to see that you have pretty much the same settings for PUBG HDR Extreme. Now, the 14 Pro is able to run at 90 frames. I'm sure it'll be updated in a while for this phone, and just give it a minute. You do have the 90 frames option. As far as your gaming performance here, it's going to be pretty smooth. Now, yes, that extra power, if you are somebody that is like an extreme gamer, right? Like you play Genshin and you play these really demanding games, yes, you will notice like less frame drops and stuff like that, of course, because you just have more power on the 14 Pro. But if you find yourself a more casual gamer, then, the iPhone 11 is going to be fine. Not only is the iPhone 11 extremely good for gaming, but it's also a very cheap phone for gaming as well too, to game at some pretty high settings here. So you can see it's very smooth playing HDR Extreme here. We're definitely at 60 frames. 14 Pro, very smooth as well too. But like I said, one of the benefits with the 14 Pro is that it will be able to take advantage of the 90 frames option as well. So like I said, if you're an extreme gamer, I think having that extra frame rates, the extra power might be beneficial for you. About the additional features, so like I said, both IP68, both of these phones have the NFC or Apple Pay, and they both have stereo speakers. And let's go ahead and actually do a side-by-side comparison, see if we can notice a difference with the speaker quality here. We'll start with the 14. Yeah, the 14 Pro's speakers are just a little bit thumpier, a little bit louder than the 11. Yeah, definitely just hits harder overall. So you are getting a kind of a nice speaker upgrade here. Not by much, but it is noticeable. Also, the dynamic island thing, right? So you do have this, which is basically like a really cool way to multitask. So if I go ahead and play this song real quick here, you guys can see it pops up right there. So it's able to do like, it's sort of like quick multitasking, stuff like that. And you can see like if I start running the timer or something like that, where if I just quick hold it, I can access widgets and stuff like that. Or so it's a nice little thing to have for sure, to be able to app switch very quickly as well. So that's definitely one thing that you might like as well. All right, I'm going to show you guys these side-by-side stills, but let's talk about the camera specs. So the 14 Pro, it does have the new 48 megapixel standard lens on here, and it also has a 12 megapixel telephoto. That's 3x optical zoom, and then you have a 12 megapixel ultra wide on here. It shoots in 4K 24 through 60, and then you also have a 12 megapixel selfie cam on here as well that's been updated, that shoots in 4K 24 through 60 FPS as well. You do have some software that you can take advantage of that you won't find in the 11. So you don't have any type of cinematic mode on the 11 as well too. And then the iPhone does have a macro mode. The 14 Pro, it does have a macro mode as well, which the 11 lacks. And the 11 does lack that telephoto lens. Now the 11 does have the dual camera setup, 12 megapixel standard, 12 megapixel telephoto. It can shoot in 4K 60 as well. And that's also, it can shoot all the way down to 24 frames. And then you have a 12 megapixel selfie cam on here that shoots in 4K 24 through 60. So check out these side-by-side stills. Let me know, do you guys see a significant upgrade as far as image quality? Alright guys, here's the video on the 14 Pro. .5, and then we're also able to do our 2x and even our 3x. Alright guys, here is the video on the iPhone 11. Here's our 0.5. Alright guys, let's talk about battery life here. So battery life is going to be a pretty nice upgrade for you if you get a 14 Pro. So you do have a 3200 milliamp battery. It has the fast charging. You also have the MagSafe wireless charging and also the just standard wireless charging as well. With the iPhone 11, you do have a 3110 milliamp battery on here, 18 watt charging with the wireless charging as well. So you can see the battery is not that big of a difference in terms of size, but with the new chip, Apple is able to optimize and it's just able to drain less power with the newer chips. So you can easily squeeze like at least a day and a half out of the 14 Pro. I can still get around 6 hours of screen on time on my iPhone 11 with, just check the battery health, because most of the time you're going to be buying these phones, they're not going to be new. So 87% battery health, and I'm still able to get 6 hours of screen on time. So the iPhone 11 does do a good job, but if you do want that extra battery life, definitely the 14 Pro is going to give you that. So basically this upgrade comes down to, I would say, around two things for like the average person. Do you find the cameras to be appealing to you? Do you like the camera upgrade, having the extra camera or the macro camera? Did you think the shots were good enough to upgrade? Also, do you like the screen upgrade, having the OLED with the new screen design on here, the 120 hertz and stuff like that? Is that appealing to you? As far as speed, I think the iPhone 11 is still pretty fast. So I don't think the average person would mind, when you go on an application, it loads like, a second later or something like that. I don't think most people care. So yeah, it really does come down to those form factors. I actually think the 11 is still way more comfortable than the 14 Pro. And I think the 11 is going to have, a few more years, at least maybe 3-4 years of software updates as well too. So be sure to let me know what do you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.